So here we are in our scene. So first things first, let's add a general plane, just so we have an actual floor in our scene. There we go. Let's make this big, and there we go. So the first things we're going to do is we're going to set up our actual skybox and the time manager itself. So let's add a empty object. Let's just call this time manager. And in the next update, I'll make sure to add a prefab just to save you some time. However, you can also simply just copy paste it from one of the demo scenes um, if you prefer. Then we're going to go to scripts and time manager, just drag it on. Here, it's going to be asking for a directional light, and I'll make that a child. There we go, directional light. Make sure that in your lighting tab, and if you don't have your lighting tab, rendering lighting, in your lighting tab, you have the directional light set as the sun as well. That's necessary in general for Skybox, just make sure you do. Then we're going to be using the procedural Skybox by default, so let's drag that in as well. Now, if you don't want to use the procedural skybox, if you're simply not interested in that, that's okay. You didn't have to use it. You can also just add your own HDRI skyboxes, for example. That's up to you. However, if you are using the procedural one, there's several settings here, so we can customize, well, all of the colors really, all of the layers for night, day. We can customize how bright the stars are, if you want them to be visible during the day. If it's some alien planet, we can do that as well. We can change the moon phases, so how full the moon is, and also these effects for you know the sun color, sunset color, night sun color. So much you can customize. Cool. So those are the basics. Let's go to time. So when it comes to time, we can enable this, and then you can set how many days how many minutes it take for a day to rotate, how many days in a year. The days of the year are set up because of seasons. Please, just to make sure it works as accurately as possible, you don't have to do it. Make sure it's always divisible by 4 for the 4 seasons. So 360 or 364, but not 365. Starting day of the year, starting time of the year. I'm going to reduce this to 3 minutes, just so we can actually see something happening. And then we have these events where, again, you can have things happen. Just check out the demo scenes. So that's it for the time system. I'm not going to use an alternate skybox. We'll use the procedural one. Here in the weather system, we have enable weather, ask for a couple of materials, player transform. Now the player transform is where we instantiate the weather effects of snow drops and raindrops. The reason we do that is for performance. So yes, you could do it across the entire scene. Yes, I choose not to do it for performance. It's supposed to be lightweight, and why not minimize the insane amount of particle effects. You will still see the effect on the terrain if you use the weather materials. So that's why, if as long as they're in front of the camera, it looks like it's properly raining everywhere without using a lot of particle effects. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the default skybox. So if we just hit play now, and I'll switch to scene view, we have our sun, which is looking lovely. This is what I meant with the phases, by the way, so you can change the phases of this. So if you want to have a moon like this, yeah, pretty cool. Awesome. So let's continue. So next phase is setting up a character and some materials. So for the purpose of this demo, I will use Cinti Polygon for this, simply because they're popular and, well, they're great. We'll use the hermit. There we go. And I would actually like to yeah, let's do that. I would like to use game creator as a character controller. Now, really important, you don't have to use game creator for a character controller. You can use whatever you want. I'm just using it because I have it, and it's great. So we're using, there we go, player. Perfect. Then let's add a well, I'm not even going to add a camera. There we go. Then select the camera, Control Shift F, and yay, we have our angle. I'm doing this just so we can see the weather effects. We've seen the sky work, we know it works. Then let's drag in our hermit here. And there we go, we have our hermit. Then I would like a floor as well. There we go. Okay, so it's 5 in terms of size. There we go. Perfect. Let's put him a tiny bit higher. There we go. Now we need to set up materials for this, and the easiest way to do that, of course, is by simply selecting your character. There we go. This is the default material. I'm going to duplicate this one and drag it on him. There we go. And on this one, let's make sure we know where the material, the textures are, in case it doesn't properly align. And then we're going to do general characters URP weather. Perfect. Let's drag in that texture, and pretty sure there's a normal for him as well. Yeah, there we go. Normal map. For these other textures, Cinti doesn't have them, so that's it. So yeah, we don't have metallic, or they're not that necessary either anyway, so that's all fine. Everything else by default is set up. The only thing I would that isn't set up, and that is optional, is a snow smoothness texture. If we go to our snow here, we can add that. Basically, it adds a sort of like frost effect, which I think is cool. But obviously, if you're going more low poly, doesn't necessarily match that well. So yeah, that's up to you. Then yeah, we have all of these effects by default. You can change the size. This is a material, so you can change the way it looks. By default, of course, rain, snow will be turned off. But if we would turn on rain and rain amounts, then you'd properly see the effects of everything straight away. And there's so much you can customize. You can customize these drips, how visible they are, the size they are. That's all up to you. Same with snow. So if we do snow, and then where's snow amount? There we go. This is something you can customize as well. We have blend distances, and will depend on character models on how well it will look. So yeah, that's up to you. So play around with it. I think by default they work pretty well, but you might need to customize some of these settings. Cool. So yeah, that's it for our character. So okay, that's working. Then for this one, we need to do the same. So let's duplicate this. Let's drag it on. Let me just make sure they all have it. There we go. Here I'm going to do the same. Let's make sure we have them. And then we're going to change this to, this one is just called weather. There we go. Looks a bit different. That's because smoothness on Cinti models by default is only 0.2, and the normal map needs to be added. And there we go. Cool. That's that. Again, yeah, the snow smoothness, as you can see, is set up here by default as well. But again, might want to change that if it's up to you. Yeah, I think by default that should have been off. I'm not sure. Anyway, then now that we've done this, we need to add them to our weather system. So our weather system needs to know what our player is. So that's one. And it also, I'm actually going to do the camera here because we have a fixed camera instead. And it also needs to know what materials we are using. So those two materials we just set up, we need to add them. And the reason for that is that obviously you can have it different per scene. Not every scene will be using the same materials, and it needs to properly control those settings. And for our character, I think it was this one. Not sure. Could be wrong. There we go. So yeah, these are all set up. And now I'm just going to hit play. There we go. So I'll switch to scene view for now, just so we can see everything. And if I go to weather system and I turn on the clouds, then you'll see the clouds. You can turn them off as well. They look different during the day than during the night. We have the decal projector system as well, which is it basically puts shadows of the cloud on on the floor, which is pretty heavy. I'll actually turn it off. It's actually pretty heavy in terms of how it looks, but yeah, again, you can customize that. Cool. So let's switch to our game. We know how the sun works. Then we can turn on the rain. And then we have the rain effect. Can turn it off as well. Important thing here is you can adjust all of these settings, so how fast this goes, how fast we see the drops, how fast we see the wetness of the rain on the ground. That's all customizable. Same with snow, how fast this is going to cover. As you can see, this is way too fast because it needs a bit of build up. But yeah, it looks so cool. Now the only thing that doesn't work at the moment is we don't have any footsteps. There's no effects, so we need to add that. But everything else looks pretty cool. Yeah, it looks like actually quite like the effect like this. So let's turn that back off. Incredibly fast, by the way. Cool. So let's turn this off now. Play mode. We've got our player here, and again, it doesn't matter what character controller you're using. This is simply making use of the animator, and that's it. So let's go to scripts, and then we have Footstep Manager. And by the way, if you want to display the time as well, let's just do that straight away real quick, because that's quite easy. Canvas. There we go. Text Mesh Pro. There we go. I'm obviously doing that wrong. Perfect. And then on there, we can just on the canvas we can add the time display, and then simply drag in the text. So if you want the time, we can do the time. If you want the day, we can do the day. If you want the season, we can use the season. We can select if this is a 24-hour format or you know, AM PM. We do need to link to the time manager, so let's just link to the time manager. And you can only use one, so either Legacy or Text Mesh Pro. Obviously, you can use the script multiple times, but per script, you can only assign one. I wanted to leave the option for both because some people still prefer to use Legacy, so pick and choose whatever you prefer, either Text Mesh Pro or Legacy. Sweet. Then yeah, let's do those footsteps. So here, same thing. So we need to drag in the time manager, the player that is the one with the animator on top of it. Rotation source, that's a bit of a weird one. So I'll try to explain that. So the rotation source basically will dictate how the prefabs instantiate on the scene. So if your animator is also your player controller, it will be the exact same one. So you'll just drag that in. However, if it's not, like in the case of Game Creator, the player is the controller, we're going to drag in the player. So that is because this will dictate how it drops. So basically, this is where your controller script is on. So yeah. Then next up, we need foot left, right. So that's literally the bones. Yeah, on these models, it's just not foot, it's ball, which is fine, I guess. So we'll use ball then. There we go. So ball left and ball right. There we go. We need our prefabs as well. So let's go to weather prefabs. Splash is for water, and step is for snow. There we go. And you can obviously add your own. It's just a prefab with an effect. That's a nice thing. So you can add whatever effects you want. If you have cooler effects or they just don't match your scene. Again, do whatever you want. Sweet. So we've got those. Now the only thing that's missing is this needs to recognize where you get when it needs to instantiate it. So that means it needs it needs an animation event. So in this case, locomotion. And this is quite a complex one, as you see. It's quite a big one. It really is quite a big one. Okay, so this is crouch. Okay. I'll just assume it's this one that is done by default. So this one. There we go. So yeah, we'll assume it's that one. No, I don't want to assume. Let's give this a quick play. Just want to make sure which animation is actually playing. Yeah, that looks similar. Cool. So let's go out of play mode. And stand and fast. So here we need to add those animation events. So we'll open up the animation. There we go. And if you're familiar with how animation events work, so you basically select the parent, and then you select the animation, so stand, fast forward. There we go. Yeah, that looks about right. And then here we add an event, Footstep Manager, methods, and we have left footstep. And let's add another event, and we have methods right footstep. That's the right one, right? Yeah, okay. I think I did it a bit too early. There we go. That's better. Cool. Awesome. So in order to better see these effects, I want it to be day. So I'm going to go to the time manager here. I'm going to go to time system. Let's make this 5 minutes, and let's actually do the starting time at 12. So it's bright, sunny, really lovely. There we go. Then in our time manager, let's turn on some rain. And we have our prefab instantiating. So we have our splashes. And again, if you don't like these splashes, replace them with whatever prefab you want. You can add, some effects as well. And this is what I meant with the rotation. So obviously with the splashes you wouldn't see, but with footsteps we need to make sure they're properly straight with how the character is walking, so they need to align properly. So yeah, that's it. Also, quite important thing actually, and we can see that with rain. So if the transition time is longer, as you can see, if I turn it on, it's not happening straight away. So it's only going to instantiate these prefabs if the snow cover is full enough, and if the rain cover, so the wetness, is full enough as well. So if it doesn't look wet, it's not going to instantiate any prefabs. It's nothing you have to do for that. That's just how it works by default. So yeah, that's it for this video. Definitely check out some of the alternative shaders as well. So I've added a Toon Shader in the last update, which is actually really pretty cool. So if we have a look at this character, quickly want to show it actually, and then let's collapse all of this. We don't need all of that. There we go. We can actually switch to Toon URP weather. It will actually use the same textures. It won't use a normal map because it's a Toon Shader. And you'll have this really cool Zelda-ish Toon Shader effect. Now, in order for that to look really good, and this is a lit shader, by the way, so it just pretends to be an unlit shader, but it's a lit shader. So normal shadows, they just look toony. If you would like to make sure that for Cinti this looks as good as possible, have a look at the character model. So there we go. So here we have the characters, and make sure that smoothing angle is set to 180. If it's set to 0, it still doesn't look bad, don't get me wrong, but as you can see, because of the surfaces, it could be better. So it doesn't look bad, it just could be better. With smoothing set to 180, it just looks better. Nicer reflections, things like that. So yeah, that's truly it then for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.